Are Titan Rune dungeons the answer to Mythic Plus problems? Maybe that's too big of a question. Maybe we could also say, are they an interesting thing to talk about that could contain many, many lessons?
Magdalena sure thinks so.
Yeah, Magdalena does think so. Okay, so this is inspired by a recent Twitter thread from Magdalena, prominent, outspoken member of the WoW community. I believe Magdalena, it was founded Arcurus, which is one of the one of the DK communities. But it's interesting because obviously there's no Mythic Plus in Wrath Classic, but Wrath had this problem. At the very start, the dungeons felt pretty good. They were definitely easier. Way easier than in TBC, but they felt good enough. Halls of Lightning could get a bit hairy, and that was good. But people soon completely outgeared them, and then they were just, for their Badges of Frost, were doing their daily dungeon and stuff like that. So what Blizzard have done is they've added in a new system, which are called Titan Rune dungeons. So in one game, it's a keystone, and the other game, it's a Titan Rune. Now, this is likely something from the recently formed experimental gameplay team that is mostly WoW Classic developers. And this basically fills the void of Mythic Plus, giving Wrath Classic hard dungeons. And let's talk. Just context, we've always got on pretty well. We always talk with each other about things. Good to see opinions. Now, Wrath Classic's Titan Rune dungeon system, even with all the limitations of Wrath era mechanics, gets so much right about what I dislike the most about the Mythic Plus system. I've never been more excited to play alts barring mob. So fundamentally, that seems pretty good. 1. Dungeon-specific modifiers rather than generalized ones. Flippin' hell, even just that. Yes, some similarly themed dungeons share modifiers, and yes, some of the modifiers are a little hammy, but the core concept of modifier per dungeon is superior to generalized ones. While I have not played it, in principle, that passes the common sense check for me.
Yep. 2.
Rapid gearing for alts, which is probably the only slight hurdle Wrath had in the past, as stuff like Alpha or Time the Sile wasn't as well defined. Heroic Plus solves this in a way not seen before in Wrath. The cascading effect of 10-man loot dropping in 5-man dungeons means running 10-man raids and getting 25-man rewards opens up another avenue for low commitment raiding, since 10 is definitely easier than 25 in Wrath. So the Heroic Plus dungeons drop basically 10-man of the previous tier's raid.
Yeah, I suppose that's the equivalent of next tier you run Vault Heroic to get Mythic Gear.
Yeah.
To get Vault Mythic Gear, so yeah.
Which I think is... Cool. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting idea. And that would actually be great for many teams who have got players that want to have that really nice Mythic appearance, but you could actually go back and do the past raid, start to collect your transmog by doing it in Heroic while also maybe gearing up some alts. Certainly something that could be discussed. I don't know, so talk about yourselves about that. Then, net positive for the economy as an increased source of perps throughout the game takes the edge off enchanting mats, which were prohibitively expensive till mid-late Trial of Crusader on servers, as wretched as mine in Wrath. 5. Since BIS is actually tangible and obtainable in Wrath, the sudden bump to gearing from past raid content can suddenly push you over the edge just in time for next tier. Not as satisfying as getting BIS within a tier, but not a bad feeling either. Essentially, it feels appropriately rewarding without demanding heavy commitment. 1 dungeon a day, nothing too nuts outside of just doing what I already do in dungeons, and the best part is that it can fade into irrelevance past a certain point. Till next time.
Yeah, because there's a certain element, and I think this is something we'll be talking about as a guild fairly soon, which is things being done, and you moving on. And I think I talked this in that video that went up a while ago about everything wrong with Dragonflight, and it was did that go live? No, okay, sorry. Okay, there's a video coming next week that talks about things, but it's the idea that I think. Well, there's definitely a group of players today for live service games and stuff that love, I'll do the same thing every night, and there's a level of comfort, a level of mastery that you can have in that.
I will sit in 2 fort and be cozy.
Yeah, and I think that's perfectly fine, obviously, but I think there's again the dichotomy of player types. There's players who like exploration and players who like, not exploration in the let's explore the game world sense, but the more literal let's do something new sense, of people who like novelty. And I think the idea of being done with something and then being able to move on to something else is really strong. And it used to be a big part of World of Warcraft's progression. But now that's kind of boiled down to just being difficulty based, as opposed to you get new stimulus. It's not like you finish the normal raid and then go into the heroic raid and there's a new boss, or there's a new, like, obviously there's new mechanics, but it's not like, oh, this, like, say the Deathia arena now suddenly has those platforms where they were missing in normal. They're the same. It's just mob spawn on them. So I think that's a fun thing that'd be very nice for them to remember in future, instead of, or to try to build that instead of getting stuck in the same loop mastery, even though that's huge for a lot of players to do.
Yeah.